number, what page? All of them is not an option. We don't have time. Which one? What? Pick one. Which one? 15 on page 2. Okay, so 15 on page 2. This is similar to your perimeter problems. A larger number is 5 more than twice the smaller number. Their sum is 80. Find the numbers. So this first part is just talking about the larger. In this case, if you want to define your variables, it's just going to be larger and smaller, but I'll say L is for large and S is for small. For perimeter, you wouldn't need to define your variables because it's just length and width unless you change them. And then if it's something else, you would need to define those variables. So the first part, you can go ahead and write that equation for L. 5 more than we're adding. Twice a number, we're multiplying the smaller number. Then there's sum, so I'm adding them together to get 80. L and S. Then because I have this equation for L, I can put this in where this L is. So 80 equals 5 plus 2S plus the S that was already there. Then combine your like terms, add the S's. So 2S plus 1S is 3 S's. And then solve this for S by getting rid of 5. And divide both sides by 3. What is S? Say it again. 25. Now, if this had some unit of measurement, I would put that with it. But this is just looking for numbers in general, so I don't need a unit. I do need to go back and find L, because it said find the numbers. So I can either put this in for this L equation where S is, or I can put it into this equation where S is. It doesn't matter. You should get the same thing either way. I'm just going to use this one. Multiply 2 and 25 to get 50. And then add 5 and 50 to get 55. Questions on that? Evan, did you find your study guide?
Yeah.
Other questions from this study guide? Roger. 7 on the first page. Anytime you have a fraction that equals another fraction, you're going to cross multiply the numerator to the opposite denominator, and same thing, numerator to opposite denominator. Multiply those together, so 9 and 4 would give us 36. And then on the other side, you could go directly into multiplying 2x and then plus 16, or you could rewrite it with parentheses and then distribute. It does not matter. And then if you had variables on both sides, you would be trying to get all the x's on one side, all the constants on the other, but in this case we only have one set of variables on one side, so get rid of 16 and divide both sides by 2. so that x equals 10. Remember that you can use your calculator to double check, put that back in, see does that equal on both sides. Other questions?
You do number 5.
On this page. 5, we're going to distribute. We have 9n minus 36 minus 7n equals 32 minus 2n minus 16. Make sure you're keeping all your signs and putting your equals. Combine your like terms on the same side, so 9n and negative 7n, 32 minus 16. So we have 2n minus 36 equals 16 minus 2n. Now, just looking at this, I have the same coefficient, sorry, no I don't. I have different coefficients, so this is just going to be one solution, n equals something. I can pick and choose what I want to move, so let's say I want to add 2n and add 36. We have 4n equals 52. Someone double check that. I don't know if that's accurate. Thank you. And divide both sides. What is n? So we shouldn't have computers open. Everyone that has one, close it. Say 13 or 14. 13. Sophia, go ahead and close your laptop. Thank you. Other study guide questions? Evan, you can charge it back there, but you don't need it. No.
I'll just put it in.
Okay. Which one? 14 on which page? 14 on page 2, so that we get the absolute value. Here, anything outside of the absolute value, get rid of those first. Anything adding or subtracting, get rid of that first. So add 9. Make sure you're keeping this inside absolute value. Get rid of the 5 by dividing. This should be an absolute value up until this point. Then you can drop it, make your 2 cases. I'm going to do that up here because I'm running out of space. So we have 4x minus 4 equals 8 and 4x minus 4 equals negative 8. Change the last number. Don't change anything here. Solve both equations. Both of these equations should not have your absolute value anymore. Add 4 to both. Divide both sides by 4. And then write your final answer in a solution set, least to greatest. Other questions?
Page 6, number 16 and 17.
Page 6. So we'll do 17 since we just did a larger one. So page 6, number 17, the perimeter one. The length of the rectangle is 5 inches less than twice its width. If the rectangle has a perimeter of 80 inches, find the length and width, or it might say find the dimensions. So in this case, we don't have to define the variables because we already have, it's going to be L and W. Unless you change them, then define them. The first part is talking about the length. that is 5 inches less than, that's subtraction. Anything before those words come after. So I'm going to be subtracting 5. Twice its width, so 2W. The equation for perimeter is either adding up all the sides. You could take this and then add it again, and then add W, and then add it again, or use your P equals to L plus 2W, where P is 80. L, I can put this in, and make sure you bring down that other 2W. Then start to solve for W by distributing. Combine your like terms. 4W plus 2W gives us 6W. Get rid of the 10 by adding. And then get rid of 6 by dividing. What is W? Say that number again. 15 what? Inches. So these do have units. Make sure you are labeling. So now that we have W, we're going to go back and find L by either putting 15 into this and solving for L, or putting 15 back into this. I'll just put it in here. So this would give me 30 minus 5. So L is 25 inches. Other questions? So we've done multi-step, we've done word problems, we've done an absolute value, but we haven't done any literal. Okay. Page 8, question 3. This one. Okay. And then someone else. Number 14. Okay. We'll go back to that in just a second. I'll write it. But okay. So on page 8, number 3, we are solving this one for x1. How would I start to get that by itself? Go ahead, Addie. Not divide, multiply. So we'd have 2m equals, those two cancel, leaving x1 plus x2. And then to get x1 by itself, get rid of x2 by subtracting. So 2m minus x2 equals x1. Questions on that before we go back to page 6? Yeah.
The other number 3 on the same page.
Are you talking about the word problem?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll come back to that. For 14, we are solving this for h. We have to get h by itself. Pi and r squared and h are all next to each other, so they're all multiplying. So to get rid of that, I'm going to divide both sides by pi r squared, so that those cancel, leaving us with b. Questions on that? Okay, then we're going to go back to 8 and do that number 3. Sally and her friends went ice skating. Skate rental is $3, and each hour skating costs $5. If Sally spent $23 total, how many hours did Sally skate? So we need some variable to represent how many hours. We can call that h, x, it doesn't matter. Define it so we know what it's talking about. Look at the question to answer that part. We know the skate rental is $3. She's going to pay that no matter what. And every hour, she's going to pay $5. So for each hour, those two are going to be multiplied together. And I'm going to be adding 3. We know she spent $23 total. So that's what it's going to equal. And we're going to solve for H by subtracting 3. And dividing both sides by that. So once you get here, make sure you still put your labels. This would be 4 hours. Other questions? 4. Okay. For this one, a stack of 18 bricks is 45 inches tall. What is the height of each brick? So what don't we know? The height. So that's going to be my variable. I'm going to call that H for height of each block. Well, I know that each brick, I have 18 of them. I'm going to multiply 18 in each. And I know the total is 45. That's your equation. Divide. What is H? And then 2.5 what? Inches. Other questions? Alright. Number 16. On page 9. And this one, just like our last one, we have to isolate the absolute value first, get rid of these two. This is directly connected to this, so I wouldn't touch that first. I'd get rid of the 3 by subtracting. And then to get rid of the negative 1/2, I would take this and flip it and multiply on both sides. So that these cancel, and this becomes a positive 28. Leave this in absolute value. Now that it's isolated, and I see that this doesn't equal a negative, now I can make my 2 equations. And subtract 9 on both sides. Divide this. So you could divide the fraction, but that could get messy really fast, so instead multiply is the same thing. What are your 2 solutions? Negative 37 and 19. One last question. While you all are looking through to find maybe possible one last question, I'm going to explain how the quiz is going to work. So, as I mentioned before, there is a non-calculator part and a calculator part. You guys are going to start on the non-calculator part. So in a minute, I'm going to have you guys put calculators up. And then you're going to turn it in once you finish, and then I'll give you the calculator part. Once you turn that in, you do not get it back. You're done with it. And the quiz is collaborative. So you guys can work with each other. No notes. So everything is going to be put away. I'm not part of that collaborative. You can ask me clarifying questions only. But you guys can work together. But that doesn't mean copying down whatever someone else has, because then I'll just come grab your quiz. That means talking about how did I get this, how did you get this, throughout the whole entire process. Talk to each other. And then when you're finished with both sections, you can be working on Delta Math, retake work, other classwork. Questions on how the quiz is going to go. Some of the standards are just listed at the top, so if you don't remember what they are, they're on the board. You can go up and look at those. Did we have one last question? Okay, so I need you to clear off your desk. Go ahead and put your calculators behind your cell phones.